All right, we're going to get started. We had a pretty rough night last night here in Escambia County. I want to go over some of the details regarding what happened. I also have with me Commissioner Lumen May from District 3 for a comment as well. We had two individuals killed last night in a drive-by shooting at Wedgwood. I'll kind of go over the timing between 7 and 8 last night at the Marie Young Community Center in Wedgwood. And I think I got a picture of where that is. If you look here, that's the picture of the community center, but also just below that, there's a pavilion, and that's where the shooting is going to have taken place. There were some individuals there that were playing dice while there was a men's basketball game that was taking place in the community center itself. And it was while a crowd had gathered to play dice in that small pavilion area. Right there, a white car pulled in behind that. It was a white Hyundai Sonata. This Sonata had been reported stolen from the Pensacola Police Department about 1 month ago. And it was this car pulls up, drives by one time, comes back, stops, and then three males get out and exit that car, one with a longer gun, assault type rifle, and two with handguns. And then they aim towards a number of people, a group of people that were in that small pavilion area there playing that dice game. I have a picture here of some of the surveillance. We have some surveillance. This is just a kind of a dark look at it, but this is as the three individuals had just left the car and they're heading towards that pavilion area where there are some men and one child playing dice. There are a total of 7 victims. 2 victims are deceased. The deceased victims are 21 years old and 24 years old. The others are a 23-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 27-year-old, a 29-year-old, and unfortunately an 11-year-old. I will tell you that the white car that they pulled up in has been recovered. That is this car here. That white Sonata is the one here that we have recovered, and we're obviously processing this. Now is the time that we talk about we need help from the community. Now is the time that we say this is unnecessary violence. This can't happen. We need to talk to our children. We need to talk to our schools. We need to talk to our clergy. We need to talk to people and say this is unnecessary. But you know, it's also time to talk about personal responsibility, because the people that are responsible for this are the 3 people that are in this picture right here. These 3 are responsible. There's one more that stayed in the car in the driver's seat of that white car so they can make a quick getaway. But let's talk about personal responsibility. Let's talk about the community involvement. Let's talk about why this took place. Let's talk about the fact that someone knows who these 3 people are. Someone knows where these people stayed last night. Someone knows that there was a white car that they've been driving. One of them had been driving. Someone knows that. And when I talk about personal responsibility, I'm not just talking about the ones that pulled the trigger. I'm talking about the ones that knew about this, that knew about it beforehand, the ones that knew about it after the fact, the ones that are helping them, the ones that loaned them a car, the one that helped them steal a car, whoever stole the car, all of these things. I'm talking about the family that noticed a white car that they had never seen before right next door or parked in the back. And they're thinking, what's going on with that white car? And give us a call. That's what I'm talking about when I say personal responsibility. Because, yeah, we can do all the mentorship programs in the world, and we do. I have Commissioner May here with me, and he does a ton of mentorship programs, a ton of athletic events. Because when we had our roundtable, gun violence roundtables a couple years ago, everyone said, we need more things for the kids to do. Well, there are things for the kids to do. But there's still these people that are out there that are just destroying our neighborhoods. 7 people were shot. 2 of them were killed. One of the people that were shot was 11 years old. Now, talking about the community working, talking about the community helping us out, talk about personal responsibility, community responsibility. Let's talk about the fact that there's a mother that will not let her child talk to law enforcement. That was there. There's a witness at this situation, and they would not let her talk to law enforcement. Let's talk about the fact that there have been shootings we've had where no one knows anything about anything. No one knows who did it. Yet somehow, oddly enough, there's retaliation. So someone knows. And they don't care to talk to us. They don't care to talk to anyone. There are families that know what's going on. And if we don't embrace our kids from an early age, if we don't embrace them now and say, hey, I think you're going the wrong path, this is going to continue. That's just me talking, because we've seen this sort of thing. These are the conversations that we're going to have. I do want to turn it over for a second to Commissioner Lumen May, who has a comment or two. Commissioner?
Thank you, Sheriff Simmons. First, let me just thank the sheriff and the Escambia County deputies and Escambia County law enforcement. They reacted quickly. As always, they have put safety as the #1 priority. And so I've had the opportunity to work with the sheriff and Chief Leiter and Ronnie Rivera and Lynn Wiggins. And I want to tell you, the Escambia County Sheriff Department, kudos to you. We certainly appreciate it. And Sheriff, thank you. Because the work that Sheriff Simmons is doing is not just reactionary after a shooting. It's the Blazer program. It's the night out. It's been a part of all of our youth programs. So I want to thank the sheriff. But let me just take a brief moment to talk about what we're doing in Escambia County. Immediately after we received the phone call, I was out of town. Our community center manager, Leroy Williams, reacted, has worked with law enforcement with our camera system and providing them all of the information that he can possibly give them. The Marie Young Center is operated under an agreement with the Neighborhood Association, which means that many of our centers allow for the neighborhood associations to operate and run programs for the good of their communities. We certainly don't negate that it is an Escambia County facility. With that being said, we have closed the facility due to the systemic problems that we've had. We are going to investigate it. We're going to make sure that protocols were followed, that security was taken, law enforcement was informed, and that our staff was informed. As of today, we don't have all those answers. Our staff has worked diligently all night and all this morning trying to find out exactly what happened, what events were taking place, who organized the events, who were the organizers, who was responsible, and what plans were implemented for the safety of the citizens of Escambia County in that Wedgwood community. Claire Long, my director, is here, and Leroy Williams. We know that kids are out of school and they were traumatized. We're going to work with Sheriff Simmons to make sure that we have counseling, grief counseling. We're going to make sure that we provide any resources to any citizen that was there that witnessed this horrific crime against citizens in Escambia County. We don't have all the details, but I will tell you we're going to get to those details. But let me just stop for a moment and say we need the community help. We can no longer be plagued by this senseless act of violence. Law enforcement cannot enforce the law unless they're informed. So I encourage people that somebody's grandchild, that somebody's father, that somebody's brother, that somebody coached this child. We can't believe that there's not someone out there with information that can bring these people to justice. We're not just calling on county commissioners, elected officials, and the sheriff department. We're calling on this community. These senseless acts of crime has to stop. So for our faith-based leaders, our civil rights leaders, all those who are engaged in youth activities, we're going to be bringing forth harder rules and regulations and working with the sheriff that will require stricter security. And so although we want our children to be able to go into parks, we want them to be able to go into community centers, we want them to be safe havens. Community centers are meant to be safe havens. It's for children who come from single-family homes. It's from children who are plagued by violence, that they expect to come on a Sunday, on God's day, to come into a community center to be safe. That's our responsibility, to make sure they're safe. But in order to make them safe, we have to hold people accountable. And so we're calling on this community. This is a sad day for Escambia County, not just for the Marie Young or the Wedgwood Neighborhood Association, not just for District 3, but for all of Escambia County when you have 7 people, 11-year-old innocent child shot, 2 young men laid to rest for something that's senseless. And so we're going to continue to work with the Sheriff Department. Sheriff Simmons and I have worked diligently with the Children's Trust to implement these cameras. We know that we need to update many of our cameras in our community centers and in our parks, in our high schools. This is nothing new. Children can't go to a high school football game. They can't go to a Little League football game in Bellevue. They can't walk in their neighborhoods off Hampton Road and off Longleaf to come into the community center. This has to stop, and we're going to stand with this sheriff in making sure that we do everything that we can to make the citizens of Escambia County safe. And again, Sheriff Simmons, thank you for including Escambia County.
Thank you. Briefly, do just want to touch on some of the things that Commissioner May talked about. You probably know by now we're working on getting cameras. Every time we have a violent act in Escambia County, Lumen and I talk. All right, what could we have done? What can make us better? We may not have prevented the one that took place recently, but what can we do to eliminate the risk moving forward? And that's what we're doing. That's why he talked about the cameras. There are cameras at Wedgwood Community Center, but we need some better cameras, and we're going to work on getting those better cameras. We have some video, and there's some better video than this, obviously, too. We're working on getting as much information as we can that we can get it out. I do want to say that our investigators, I got called last night, obviously, and our entire investigative section went out from Commander Gilmore to Colonel Ward. All of them went out to work and help with our Uniform Patrol Division, because as you can imagine, we had a rather large group there, and we had 7 victims, and they're all going to the doctor or the hospital. They're all getting treatment, and some unfortunately were deceased at the scene. So we had a large crime scene, and they did a really good job of cording down what we have at the scene, and then also to make sure the information got out. So as you can see, the white car's receipt was recovered. These are the 3, just a video, a snapshot of a video actually, from what the video showed us. And I do want to say before I answer questions, we had one more homicide last night that you may be aware of. We got information from Pensacola Police Department that there was someone from out of state called and said, hey, he's been talking to a friend that lives here in Escambia County, and that friend is saying that he has killed his mother. And so they relayed the information to us, and we went to that address. We saw bullet holes in the window. We knocked on the door. The son, or I guess it was the son, he came to the door. Ultimately, we were able to go inside there and find his mother was deceased. She was deceased from a gunshot wound, at least one gunshot wound, and over a dozen stab wounds. So he's been arrested. And again, I think you just shake your head at why these things happen. But, I feel like my job is to tell you all what's going on in Escambia County. And unfortunately, that means some of the bad stuff as well as some of the good stuff. So while we concentrate on the active investigation, that is the result of these 7 people being shot and 2 deceased, we will continue to work towards that. Are there any questions about either one of these 2 cases that I may or may not, or Commissioner may or may not be able to answer?
Yeah, Sheriff, just talking about the retaliation, do you know what they were responding to?
What the retaliation was about? Unfortunately, over the last couple of months, there's been some situations where when we hear retaliation, we go back and say, which one of these are the retaliation? A lot of the names that are involved, the suspected names, the people that call us up and say, hey, there's names, these are familiar names to us because there has been either they were victims of a prior shooting or they've been suspects in a prior shooting. And what I mentioned before was that no one seems to know anything about it, and then all of a sudden someone retaliates against the person they think did it. Instead of doing that, why don't you just tell us who you think did it, and then we might be able to put a stop to some of this stuff. I will tell you that our investigative section, our specifically robbery homicide, has done a fantastic job. We were talking the other day about how many arrests they've made in the homicides that we've made here. But if you look at the picture, then you'll see that they get information like this quickly. This car has already been recovered. These are things we put out to our deputies. These are things we put out now to the public, so that we give you everything we have, so that if you have information, whether it is verified or not, you can give us a call and let us know, because all these pieces of information is processed, and then ultimately we will end up making an arrest, because they've done a very good job of doing that so far. Any other questions?
Sure. You mentioned at previous press conferences the link between stolen vehicles
Mm-hmm.
and either drive-by shootings or vehicles that are involved in shootings. Is the sheriff's office doing anything different to try to, I guess, find suspects who have stolen vehicles, or find any type of stolen vehicle before it can be linked to one of these shootings?
Yeah, if you recall, there's a couple things here. If you recall the Ayers Boulevard shooting, where the individuals jumped off the bridge, and one of them succumbed to his injuries from jumping off the bridge. That is indicative of what we're doing. We have cameras out there, so we knew that that car was stolen. We already had people that were en route, and they were up to see that car because of that camera. So this car was stolen. It was stolen about a month ago. And as I mentioned to you before, this is what they're doing. They're stealing a car, they're hiding it for a couple of weeks or a month, and then they'll use it whenever they need it. So it'll be at their beck and call, more or less. I also want to mention that last night we had a car chase involving another stolen car. That car ended up crashing into a telephone pole. 3 people were in it. One did get away, but we did capture the other 2. So what are we doing? We're using technology with regards to our license plate readers. We're using a change in policy and an emphasis on stolen cars and stopping these chases right away. I can tell you, if we just saw this car leaving, we've done everything we can to stop this car, which means bumping the crap out of them and stopping that car, and because we know what they're doing with these stolen cars.
Do you know if there was any, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you know if there was any security at this event yesterday?
I'm not aware of any security. Lumen, are you aware of any requirements for that?
Our staff is here, and that's part of the requirement that our staff and I talked about. We're investigating that to make sure that they did follow all of the protocol when they issue out a rental. And so that's forthcoming, that information.
You know, who playing the basketball game or anything like that?
We don't, and I'm looking at my staff, and it's part of a folder that I just read. We know that the ultimate responsibility is the Wedgwood Neighborhood Association, but they do sublease, which is allowed by them. And so we're requesting that information today, and certainly as soon as we get that information, we're going to get that to the sheriff.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, we're gonna collectively and individually talk about what time are these things supposed to close on Sunday night? Who are they sanctioned for a basketball game? Or are they sanctioned for a dice game? Are they sanctioned to be outside and inside? All these things are things that we're going to look at. But the bottom line here is that we're looking for 3 people who are killers. We're looking for 3 people who stole a car. They stole a car. They went to this location. They came out with 3 weapons. They ended up shooting an 11-year-old plus 6 other people, 2 of which are dead. So while we look at how this happened, we do that so that it doesn't happen again. We make steps so that it doesn't happen again. But again, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it's their responsibility. It's the people that are doing the shooting. These are the people we need to be targeting, putting their information out. These are the ones that we need to be asking questions about so that we can put the bad guys in jail, so that people can play a basketball game, kids can play a football game, and we can all go to the park or wherever we need to go without worried about this type of behavior. But again, it all boils down to personal responsibility. Any other questions?
What other violence, if any, have you guys seen at that same community center?
I don't know that we've had some functions there. I don't recall exactly what we've had. I think a couple of years ago there was a shooting at that location, and I believe 1 person was killed. The county's been dealing with all of that, but it's been, I guess, 2 years ago, and Lumen could probably correct me if I'm wrong, about 2 years ago. And then we can find one-offs on of gun violence here or gun violence here. But I can tell you that with Commissioner May's help, we are going to the Board of County Commissioners. We went to the Island Authority for cameras on the beach. We're going to Montclair, Ayers Boulevard, Diego Circle, Massachusetts. All these places are going to get safer and safer the more technology we get there. And we continue to add deputies to the street. We continue to prioritize fentanyl. We continue to prioritize stolen vehicles. We continue to prioritize the correlation between guns and drugs, and our guys are doing a very, very good job at that. Anyone else have anything? All right, that's all the information we have right now. As we get more, we'll certainly post it. At this point, we're just asking if the public has information to please let us know, because we can sure use all the information that we can get. Thank you very much.